This is Hawkissimo, and in this video we're going to be discussing Ganesha, God of Success, one of the Hindu guardians that is available. This video is actually being made from a subscriber request, so they have sent me a private message with some specific questions, and with that in mind, I'm going to be sort of tailoring specific to this individual. I will mention, however, for others that may come here, my series is generally starting with the free god rotation choices and then into specific characters that I felt were easier for newer players to learn. I would not say Ganesh was one of the 3 easiest guardians to learn, but he's certainly not a bad choice. What makes him special is his passive, and it makes him more of a guardian, more of a support character than any other guardian. So let's show you why that's so. In the ability builder, and you'll notice this time I did not set it up in advance. I'm going to do it live with you so that this particular subscriber can see exactly how I go through this process. So I'm going to start with the 1. I'm going to go ahead and come to the 3, then the 2, then back to the 1. I'm going to level the ultimate. I'm going to come back 1, 1. I'm going to come back to the 2, the ultimate, the 1, 2, 2, 2. And yes, I know I could have leveled the ultimate at 13, but I actually skipped it for 1 level just to finish Om. I'm going to come back here. Now I'm going to go and do these, ultimate, these, ultimate. I'm going to hit circle. It's going to ask me, do I want to save? I'm going to say yes. And now I'm going to go back in and talk about this a little bit. So I mentioned his passive. So the passive with this guardian is really special. What it deals with is how kills and assists are assigned to him and everybody else on his team. And it works completely differently for him than everybody else in the game. So if this god gets the killing blow, instead of him getting credit for the kill, if there happens to be an ally within the assist range, and the assist range for this god is actually double that of what it is for everybody else, instead of Ganesh getting the kill, his ally gets the kill. And so they get the full reward and compensation for that. They'll see that it was bestowed on them from you. So it's not like they think, oh, I got final hit, right? And the amount of time that can pass but before you would lose credit for the assist is also increased. So you can pull from a greater range of getting credit for an assist, even if you weren't involved in that combat at all, right? Because simply being in the area, having lane presence is important for every god, right? For minions, for buff camps, for big monsters like Apotheosis, Gold Fury, etc. And for god kills, you're getting money and XP for that. It is a last hit meta, meaning that you get a bonus to the money and gold received if you are the last hit on the minion, etc. But here you're giving that out. So you should expect to see no kills almost always when you play this god. The only time that you're going to get credit for the kill is if you're out in lane by yourself, no allies are within range, and you got the killing blow. So that should be a rarity. So the whole theme of this character is about the teamwork and the synergy. And as a guardian, you really want to stick to your squishies, specifically your mages and your hunters, right? So in a team fight, typically your warrior and your assassin are trying to jump into the backfield of the enemy, meaning that they're trying specifically to burst down the characters who can do a lot of damage, particularly those who can do it with range, right? So an assassin often likes to target the enemy mage and stop that ranged area of effect nonsense. And the hunter is trying to poke down from range those folks as well as the folks up front, right? The beggars can't be choosers. They're just trying to shoot whatever's in range while keeping out of range of the enemy. But since the enemy is going to be trying the same tactic, the assassin's not going to provide peel for you. The warrior may, depending on who they are, whether they care, lots of variables. But really the guardian is the one that's supposed to provide peel. And what I mean by peel is you're supposed to use your CC, your crowd control abilities, and most guardians have crowd control in their kit, to pull the enemy off of your ally and force them to be locked down by the pull, knock up, grab, stun, silence, all of those types of things that disrupt their plans and let your team succeed. You can also body block. You physically put yourself in between your ally and the enemy. I'll take it a step further. Ideally, when playing with friends, if you're really in a team environment, you should know as a team that it is most important for your hunter and mage to be the first to reach 20th level, because they are going to outperform the damage that they can do to the greatest volume of enemies. And if you're in a situation where, hey, I could body block and lock down that character with one of my CCs, but I'm low too, so I would die. If the answer is you could rescue your hunter or your mage by sacrificing yourself and you're a guardian, you should do that. And it is a thankless task. And yes, in the casuals, many people won't do that, but that is the role. That is the purpose. That is the mindset that you should have as a guardian player, particularly when you're on headset with your friends. But even not, play the meta, play the role, know what the role is for each. So let's talk about the abilities briefly, knowing that you're fully capable of coming in here and reading them by default. Your one is going to be your primary source of damage, but keeping in mind that every enemy that you hit up to the maximum of 5 gives your allies a bonus to the damage that they're doing for 3 seconds. And so it's 2% bonus damage per enemy hit. So you hit a wave of, a god and 4 minions. Well, guess what? The allies around you for 3 seconds are going to get a 10% bonus to their damage. So this is a good thing. And by the way, you are also considered an allied god. So it works the same way that auras do. It really should say you and all allied gods, but high-res just views allied gods as you and. So just know that for descriptions. Yeah, not much else to say there. Ohm, his second ability, you're going to see him float up in the air, go Om. There'll be a circle around you, and within that circle will be a cone. You aim that cone, preferably at a mage, but at anybody who you feel is about to cast an ability, and they won't be able to do it for 1.8 seconds. Similar to what happens if you use Aegeus as a relic. You're sort of locked down. All you can do is move. That circle is giving physical protections to everybody around you, which means that they take less damage from towers and minion waves, as well as any physical gods. So assassins, warriors, and hunters. So the other thing to note is that your cooldown is coming down. It's reduced every time you take a level in it. And it's for that reason that I have you prioritizing that as your next ability. I cannot emphasize enough how annoying it is to be a mage in particular and have somebody silence you, because at that point you have basic attacks, and that's not the forte for most mages. All right. Your 3 is a dash, and at the end of the dash, when you hit your god, you're going to put them in a mini knock-up and give them a gut punch 3 times. So it's a cute little animation that happens to be there. So that's one purpose, is to dash to get a knock-up and to deploy damage. So it's a minor form of CC. It's damage, but again, damage is not the primary goal of a Guardian. It's the CC aspect that these 2 abilities are giving you, right? But it also is worth remembering that you can pass through obstacles that are player-made deployables. What does that mean, Hawk, is probably what you're thinking. So let's give you a couple examples. You know when Thor slaps down his 3 and that little mini wall comes across the lane and nobody can get past it unless they have a jump? Well, you can dash through it. Think about Kabrakan's ultimate. He throws up that semicircle of rock and traps his opponent there and generally proceeds to pound the crud out of him. Well, you'd be able to dash through that. So those are the types of things that we mean. And again, it's player-made deployables. It's not like a wall. Okay, so on to his ultimate. His ultimate is unusual. I wasn't around in season 1 when Nuwa, or Old Wa, whatever you want to call her, apparently had something similar. But think of it as a rectangle that you're casting, and the borders of the rectangle, the outline of the rectangle, is the field that is doing damage. So you're not taking damage if you're outside of the rectangle or inside, but if you're getting hit by the border, then you're going to take the damage that's displayed. Additionally, you're going to do damage if they pass through it. So if they're trying to escape and need to run through it, they're also going to take a slow and have their protections reduced. And patch 4.11 changes all these numbers, but it still remains a viable ultimate. So I do have you advancing it. I have you advancing it even though the cooldown doesn't reduce, and although we don't care about the damage element in the majority of instances, the fact that your slow increases and that the protection reduction on your enemy is increasing in its value makes it worth leveling. If it was just damage going, I would say that you would not level it. So that's the thought about the abilities, and this particular player was asking about using the auto leveler for abilities and items. So when I put together these guides, I'm often assuming that for the ability builder, a lot of people want that auto toggle to be set to on. So go ahead and do that and know that you're going to get it in this sequence. If you want it, turn it off for a certain match and manually go through this process, that's fine. And I do that for conquest sometimes where counter building is a little bit more important. But most of the time in casuals, I just leave the auto builder for my abilities on. Now I'll go into item builder where I set up my template, but I personally don't use the auto builder for that being toggled on. I leave it off, and I'll explain why when we get there. Okay, on to the item builder. And again, to break convention, I started with a blank slate so that you could follow along with me step by step. So I'm going to go through 2 thought processes, maybe 3 thought processes for this section. I'm going to start with what you can do if you're saying, hey, Hawk, I really want to just set the item builder to auto and never have to think about it and just let it do its thing. What's the best way to do that for the most instances, regardless of what mode? Okay, so let's answer that question. In that instance, we are not going to take a starter item because you don't want to get into the buying and selling back, right? We just want to have the slot available. So we're going to go ahead and start with our boots. we're going to go ahead and pick up a Chalice of Healing. And we're going to pick up wards. I'm going to hit my R1 trigger to change the quantity from 1 to 2, and then I'm going to put a checkbox in this. And what that means is the auto builder will always go left to right, top to bottom, trying to fill it out as you've shown. And you could see suddenly these boxes down in the very last part of the page started to fill in with the things I checked in the order that I checked them. So then we're going to go directly into the core. So I'm going to assume that you're buying into the full Guardian build. Whoops. Why am I choosing those boots? That would be completely crazy. Let's correct that first off. Your boot choices are Traveler's Shoes to make money and mitigate. If you end up having problems and you're falling behind a lot as a Guardian, taking Traveler's Shoes and Watcher's Gift as a combination, the starter item Watcher's Gift and Traveler's Shoes, helps you get past that. Assuming that you're a little bit more comfortable with Guardians, really you should be looking at Reinforced Shoes or Shoes of Focus. And the reason is that, again, the Guardian's purpose isn't to output damage so much, but it is very much to have CC ready to deploy perpetually. And for that reason, I favor Shoes of Focus. So there we go. So now we're going to go into core. And the core for Guardians, again, is very supportive-based aura items. So we could actually just hop right to the aura category. Due to changes coming in 4.11, so ahead by a couple of days, you would build Sovereignty first. The physical protection is going to change from a base 30 to a base 40, so it's going to be a little bit better for you. And the aura is going to be reduced from 30 to 15 for your allies. So what does that mean? It means that you're going to get the 40 plus the 15 for a total of 55 physical protection, plus the 200 health, plus the HP 5 being increased by 25. And we always favor physical protection early in the build because it helps with minion waves, towers, and 3 of the 5 god classes, right? So then I'm going to say, let's come down into Aura and take Gauntlet of Thebes. Gauntlet of Thebes is also getting a nerf. It's having the health reduced from 350 to 300. It'll keep the HP 5, but the aura is being reduced from 20 to 15. But it's still solid. And it's a combination of adding more health to the physical protection that you have, while also providing more physical protection to your allies and starting the magical protection cycle. And the fact that you get more HP 5 as a Guardian means that you don't need to back. You can have lane presence and be there when your allies need it. The number one job of the Guardian is to not die. Unless it's specifically to save an ally, right? So you want to have lane presence. That's why we build this next. All right, then we come back down here and we come to aura, and we are going to look for our magical aura that is the preference, and that's Heart Ward. Heart Ward is kind of the mirror image of what Sovereignty was. So it's bringing magical protection, health, and magical protection to your allies, and magical regeneration in the form of MP5. This item is not getting nerfed. It's only the physical side of Thebes and Sovereignty that got nerfed. So we put that in next. So that would be the next item. So now we're sort of entering the realm of our flex picks. So what do we want to do? But again, this time through, I'm setting it for the least amount of thinking. Just set, Hawk, give me a good template to use so that I can just set it and go, and I don't need to think about it. So I'll throw out a couple of thoughts before I make my suggestions. I think Emperor's Armor is great because it adds even more physical protection, gives you health, and it doesn't matter whether you're in an offensive phase of the game or a defensive phase of the game. you're going to have better results from your structures. So you're disabling enemy structures and you're enabling your allied structures. So I think that that's a very strong choice. I think that Pythagorean Peace is a very strong choice. Pythags, as I like to call it, provides power to you and all of your team, provides you with bonus mana, provides you with bonus lifesteal, provides you with cooldown reduction. But aside from the allied gods getting the increase in their power, and the number is 30 or 20, depending on magic or physical, right? You're giving lifesteal to them as well. So that's a way to get a lot of versatility to your team. I think that if you happen to be on a team with a lot of magic folks, taking Void Shard for your allies, so let's say you had 2 mages on your team, this is very good because you're helping them get their damage carried over to the enemy. So I think any one of those is good. If you want to be completely team-oriented, you could go like... what am I doing? This. Whoops. Put the checkboxes in the proper sequence. And then the only thing that we need to do is look at relics. All right. Well, what are we going to do for relics? Okay. Well, again, in that team, give me the best catch-all stuff. So, by the way, I came to relics here, and they had the 500 gold versions. I hit my R2 trigger, and it comes down to the free versions. So let's go ahead and choose our free versions. I think the best 2 relics for people that aren't used to using them, which this person indicated that was their case, as well as guardians who are trying to provide support to their team, are simply meditation and heavenly wings. So let's talk about why. Meditation provides a flat amount of healing to you and your allies, and it also restores a portion of your missing mana. So your decision tree becomes very simple when you have this available. Am I down 30% health? Am I down 30% mana? If so, and I don't have any potions left because I've used the 3 spots on my chalice, or because I'm getting ready to burst out a whole bunch of things, or I notice that my allies are also in that situation, go ahead and pop it. Don't delay, just pop it. Same thing for Heavenly Wings. So there are 2 great uses for this. Do I need to get out of the place that I'm at because the enemy rotated on me, or somebody came out of invisibility, or hey, I thought I was going to be able to burst down that tower faster and get out before I took all this damage, but now I'm like really near death. I got to get out of here now. Well, Heavenly Wings helps you and your allies around you move quickly to get out of danger. Very useful. And again, think both for yourself and your allies. Use it for either one with both of these relics. The second instance is, how many times have you been in a game and the enemy is so close to death, but they've just run out of range, or they're about to get out of range? Well, if you or your allies should be able to confirm the killing blows, if they could just close that distance or keep up with a fleeing enemy, cast Heavenly Wings. So those become very simple decision trees. This is how I would set it if I were just doing a catch-all instance for Ganesha. The build has 20% cooldown. You got 10 off the boots and 10 off Pythags. You've got a lot of physical protection, and ignore the numbers on the right. The builder here doesn't show any of the auras being added, so it's completely silly, but you have a lot more protections than this implies here. You are getting HP 5, you're getting MP 5, all is good. So now let's do, you would say yes when you were leaving here. I'm going to say no because now I'm going to show you a couple different versions. All right. So now I'm going to go with the theory on you're going to turn off the auto builder, but you still set up the template. And the reason you set up the template is that when you open the store, this is the first page that you see. So you don't need to navigate around to look for all the different items. You have them in one centralized place, and you put them in the order that you are most likely to build them. And that's why all my guides follow this process. Okay, so we would generally start with the starter item. I think that Watcher's Gift is a great go-to starter item for more than Guardians, frankly, because it is a nice mix of a lot of things, right? It's health, it's physical protection, it's magical protection, it's mana regen, and it gives bonuses whenever minions or jungle camp monsters, so the aura buff monsters, die and you weren't the one to get the killing blow, you're still going to get some bonus on your gold reward, and you're going to get some health restoration and mana restoration. So that helps you keep lane presence. That is the recommendation for 95% of Guardians to take. So let's go ahead and take that. I then always have you, what's your boots choice? And again, I like the idea of getting my Guardians to have cooldown, but if you are struggling with falling behind level all the time, definitely keep Traveler's Shoes in mind. Very, very viable. So let's put the checkboxes, keep them in order. We're still going to come to the Chalice, and we're going to come and grab 2 wards. I know people don't ward in casuals. Develop the habit. It's the right thing to do, particularly as a support god. You know, that 50 gold to alert you or your allies of enemy rotation, so worth it. So worth it. If you watch any of the pro PTS streams going on, they ward like mad. At the 10-minute mark, the pros are often carrying both sentry wards and the basic wards. All right, so on to the core. So I'm going to give you the same build with a couple of flex options. Well, actually, you know what? Let's go into a completely different fun build. So, hey, Hawk, give me something that's still effective, but lets me have a little bit more fun. You know, worry about the team a little bit less, but still give me viability. Well, let's go into physical protection and breastplate of valor. Why this item? Because you get 20% cooldown. Yeah, you got physical protection and bonus mana and bonus mana regen, but it's really about getting that cooldown. So we're going to take that. Then we're going to come in. We're going to come to defense, and we're going to come to magical, highlight any of the cloaks. We're going to wander over to Spirit Robe. If you've watched any of my videos, you know I'm a big, big fan of Spirit Robe. I think it's probably the best overall defensive item in the game because you have a mix of both physical and magical protection. You have 10% cooldown. You have 20% crowd control reduction, and that passive is just flat out awesome. If you take hard crowd control effect, you're going to get 15% of the damage mitigated for 3 whole seconds, and it refreshes every 15 seconds. Fantastic. So at this point, you're at max cooldown. That's why this starts to become fun. So now we can go into some team items. So now we can pop on down to Aura and say, hey, let's give our team some added protections. Oh yeah, and me. And some health. Health goes very nice with armor. Think of the first thing is, it's how much damage you're reducing incoming, but you still have that source health, right? So that's your battery of health. So if you're both reducing the damage incoming and you have a bigger battery of health to draw from, that's why they work in synergy. So if they build a lot of penetration to get through your armor, it doesn't matter because you built health. If they build items that do damage based on a percentage of your health, it doesn't matter because we gave you protections. So you never want to just stack one or the other. It's both in combination work really well. Keeping that in mind, we're going to make you very tanky, and in this instance, you can come and find it in the aura, but I'm going to come up to defense, go to health, and say, let's get the old Gem of ISO. Actually, I just did a last-minute change of my mind and said, you know what? Let's get Gem of ISO. Gem of ISO is a great mage item, but it's also a useful guardian item. And why is that so? Well, it's some power, it's some health, it's some crowd control reduction, and you're adding a slow effect to your damaging ability. So now suddenly you've added more slow on top of your ultimate, you've added more slow effect to your dash, and you've added a slow effect to your 1. That's a lot of annoying stuff, which will help your team confirm kills. And then finally, when we're ready to sell our starter item, right, what's going to be the last item? Well, you have lots of choices. So let's give you a couple fun choices. Over here in power, you could come and pick up Rod of Tahuti and suddenly get a huge power spike. Your conversions of power to damage with this god are pretty cruddy, so it's not the best move, but, you know, it's fun to surprise a little bit of damage. So there's one option. Let's say we want to go a little bit more tanky, and in this instance, I'm going to come over to Stone of Gaia. I think that's a great choice. Then I'm going to come down here into Magical Protection, come to the Cloak, and pick Magi's Blessing. And I'm going to pause here for a second to show you why. So the protection number is small. It's 1515, but it has 350 health, right? So we're getting that synergy. But the passive is giving you the effect of having Purification as a relic for free once every 70 seconds, as long as you got hit by a hard crowd control effect or a root. So let's talk about what some of those hard crowd control effects are that this would help you just completely ignore. Ares' ultimate, you know, when he throws out the chains on everybody around him on his ult and then pulls them in, you walk away from it. So you'll see a little bubble around you when the protection is there. If they cast something that pops the bubble, you ignore that effect and are susceptible to additional ones, but you got that immunity to that thing and that one extra second on top of that. Hades' ultimate, when he goes into his little spinny, and everybody gets sucked into him, has their protections lowered, take all that damage. This lets you just walk out of that. So I think that this is a great option. Finally, we'll put in one more team-based item that, out of this list in the fun world, well, if you had other mages, Voidstone would be fun. You want to help your hunters and other melee-based folks get some extra attack speed. This is okay. Not particularly towards the theme that we were going. Tankiness by getting health and a crud ton of magical protection to supplement the balance of physical and magical that we've built up, plus hurting all types of heal. That's certainly a reasonable choice. But another just fun, silly choice would be doing some extra damage to everybody around you. It's not a ton of damage, particularly as your last item build, but that's also optional. And finally, Emperor's Armor. Again, there is a lot of reason to go there. So any one of these as a fun build that still has some effectiveness to it are definitely viable. And again, in the land of fun, our relics need to provide fun. I think fun means sustain in the land of Guardian, and I don't think you want to completely walk away from those roles and responsibilities. So I would still be looking towards your Meditation Cloak and your Heavenly Wing. Optionally, Magical Shell wouldn't be horrible. Bracer of Undoing, because of the extra cooldown, wouldn't be horrible. Belt of Frenzy wouldn't be horrible. But let's stay with the safest of two choices and go with the tried and true intro to Relics. So that would be a, hey, I'm solo queuing and I want to be tanky and not die, but I want to contribute to the team fight and such. You are, because we got you max cooldown. We shared some protections with our fourth item. We added slow out there to help our team with that. So all of that's good. Now, finally, let's build classic Guardian build. And there's a lot of similarities here. So we're just going to leave the top row is going to stay exactly the same. If you're looking for, hey, Hawk, give me advice for 9 out of 10 Guardians in, or just, you know, a build that I can use for all Guardians in all modes and just be safe, what do you recommend? All right, well, in that instance, let's do this. Let's, in that instance, assume that you might even be in one of those money poor games. So let's start you with the thing that will have you falling behind in money the least, and give you some sustain and ability to rotate through these traveler's boots. Then we're going to come into core, and again, we're going to be down here in the aura stuff. And I already showed you this. Really, it's sovereignty, followed by Thebes, followed by Heartwood, that's the core of every Guardian, and then it starts to get situational. So we talked about some good situational items in the selfless world. I think that there is absolutely nothing wrong with coming in and giving your team both more power and lifesteal and getting you some more cooldown, right? Because this build did not have cooldown. And then when you're ready to sell your starter item, what else can you add? Well, I'll give you I'll give you 4 choices. All right. So, choice 1. Nothing wrong with taking that to help push objectives. Choice 2. Nothing wrong with the Stone of Gaia and giving you the durability to last out there. Choice 3. Sort of a similar thing to Stone of Gaia. The passive on them work on different things but provide similar effects. The ability to ignore some annoying CC plus give you health and some protections. So any one of those is good. And finally, in the land of Aura, let's just go to that. In this tree, boosting your magical protection, but also bringing anti-heal to your kit. So you would finally sell your starter item and come in here. And then I'll go one more. If the game is still dragging on, well, A, I feel bad for you. But at that point, sell these boots, come down, and pick up your cooldown boots to end it. So that you end with a little bit more power and 10% cooldown. By then, the extra movement speed and health regen won't be as important. So that would be how I might end a pure support Guardian build, whether it was Ganesh or any of the others. Ares, this works on. This will work on really any of them. So I am going to go ahead and save that. So there, I've given you 3 different versions. Yeah, that would be a fine build for Athena. Khepri, Kubra Karne would work great with that. Sylvanas. So all of those will thrive in those gods. And with that, I'm going to end my video after the perfunctory pleas for, hey, if you found any of this useful, please click the like. Go ahead and give me a subscription. That would be great. Clicking the bell notifies you whenever I post new content and helps me out as a content creator. If you have questions, comments, go ahead and post them below. Obviously, if I put together this video as a subscriber request, go ahead and make requests for specific content, and I'll do my best to fill that out. I'm hoping that the audio didn't kick out because I saw the bad screen flash up here, so I'm hoping that this video is intact. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, this is Hawkissimo signing out.